up, guys? I'm GolfWRX editor Andrew Tursky, and I'm here with the Titleist marketing department learning about the new TS2, TS3 stuff. Guys, let's get into it.
Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for being here. I think it's always fun. We've got a newbie today, Johnny's first trip to the TPI, Titleist Performance Institute. We're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the new TS drivers we have, and then we're going to go outside and really put them through the paces. Because I think it's one thing, to hear me talk about it or to hear Steph give you the insights as how do we really design and engineer this, and it's another thing to actually go experience it yourself. That's one of the things that we really believe in, is the proof is in the performance of every product we make. So we'll chat a little bit in here, and then we'll go outside.
Let's do it.
All right. So with this new TS driver, the first thing you're going to notice is it has a new name. Right, so I think a lot of your forum posters and readers were already speculating that 919 was coming out, and
yeah, plot twist.
Well, and we've been very successful in having 2-year product life cycles and being a little bit planned out. But in this case, Stephanie's boss, Dan Stone, who leads our R&D team, came to us and said, hey, we've built more technology into this new driver frame than we have in the last 10 years combined. And he was really pushing. He's like, I think it warrants a change. And we were feeling the same way as well. And we thought, all right, this is the time to do that. We've got something special here. Let's bring that to life. And really what we had set up to do, when we talked with Steph and team, we always give them kind of a brief. What are we looking to create? And what we wanted to achieve this time was we wanted to get back to our roots. And our roots were the driver of choice for the world's best players. And so we said we got to focus on ball speed, because when we talk to the best players out there, that's what they're focused on, right? We laughed earlier about the launch monitors and how that is at times maybe driven some behaviors that are different. But ball speed is certainly a key thing with the driver. And Steph and her team set off, and they actually created what they referred to as the Titleist Speed Project, where they took the driver and they stripped it down, really down to its vital essence, and then they built it back up to be faster, longer, and better in every way possible. And out of that is really where TS2 and TS3 came. So TS stands for Titleist Speed, but it's important to kind of know that background of, like, the R&D team really went off and created this speed project, and they would come back with all sorts of insights where they'd be like, okay, hey, we were chasing MOI here, but we realized that we got to this inflection point and speed starts to come down after that. Or, hey, here's some work we did on, if we take 5 grams out of the face, we can do this. If we take a little bit of weight out of a shaft, we can get this. And everything was done along this Titleist Speed Project mentality. So we're excited to see where we can take that with consumers.
And I see immediately that it's black instead of gray. You guys kind of went towards the black. What goes into that decision and why?
We typically get with our tour pros on a lot of this stuff. We want to make sure, as if our goal is to be the driver of choice for the world's best players, let's let them have some influence on what we're doing. And I joke with our with our design team that we're a little bit like the Lego movie when Batman says he only works in very, very dark gray and black. That's basically our team. But they had a lot of different samples we went through. And this particular black, actually, it is as jet black as they come. There is no flake in here. It's very much what you would see on a high-end performance car. And that's what our players really reacted to. They loved the kind of look of that. They also had a lot of influence on how we were going to design the score lines on the face. They wanted to get back to kind of this, a little bit more of a boxy shape that they saw, kind of a little similar to what we had on 910. But this really helps a lot of better players frame up the golf ball. And so these small details all influence what we're trying to do.
Now, at what point in the process are you having those conversations with the tour players as far as color or just the creativity of the driver itself? Like, is the idea of the driver pretty cooked at that point, or is this like we're going to do a new driver? What do you guys think about color or paint? Like, how does that work?
Well, color and paint would be towards the end, but shape and performance is very much at the beginning.
Right.
So when you guys walked in this room, there's a picture of Adam Scott out here that's from a couple years ago. And he was actually testing drivers that one of them ended up becoming the new TS2 driver.
Wow.
And that was years in the making, because we do want their feedback on shaping. We want their feedback on overall performance. Sound is a really key one for the best players in the world. They really like to have a certain frequency and pitch of what the club sounds like at impact. And so we start a lot of that very early.
Yeah, one of our aspects of our design process is that we can print plastic rapid prototypes of the shapes as we're developing new designs. And what we do with those is I'll typically hand those off to Chris Teutner or JJ Van Wiesenbeck, and they'll take them out to our truck and they'll show them to the players, because not often do we have so many of them coming through our facility here. But it gives us the opportunity to get some feedback. On the TS3 as an example, they gave us some really good feedback just with regards to kind of the heel side shaping. And we were inspired by kind of the 905R, 910 in terms of that, really trying to make a very traditional looking 460, very classic and tour preferred. And then on the TS2, as Josh indicated, Adam got to see that shape early. Jordan also was very influential in looking at that shape and giving his feedback in terms of how it sat and looked in the address position. And then the aesthetics of it is obviously after we get our first samples in, then we start to really work through some different looks of what do we want it to, finish like. And that feedback from the tour is really influential in us dialing it into what the avid better player is going to really desire to see.
What goes into your tour launch? Because obviously we kind of saw guys start playing the TS2, TS3. We kind of saw them on Instagram, and Jimmy Walker put it in pretty early, and then
well, this was a fun one.
Yeah.
So for everything with this driver launch, it's been different than we've done in the past, and that included how we wanted to work with our tour pros. So I think you guys knew very well that, hey, typically we'll see you in Washington, D.C. I think it's been the Quicken Loans the last few years, and it was just kind of, all right, we'll be there and you're going to see how this happens. But we thought, let's look at this differently. We worked with our tour team, and they started based on overall world golf ranking scores and started seeding the guys that way. So we started fitting players really early. I mean, probably in April and May we were starting to fit players, and then given their feedback was very universal in I want this thing right now. It was delivering on higher ball speed, a little better launch, a little lower spin, the types of things they wanted to see for more consistent distance. And so it was clear within a matter of weeks that they wanted the driver a lot sooner than waiting for the Quicken Loans. And then we spoke with a few of them and said, hey, what if we can get this thing on the USGA conforming list for you to be able to use at the US Open? Is that something you would even consider? Because we want our guys to play their best golf. We won't want them to just get pushed into some new product. But in the majority of cases, guys are like, absolutely. I will play that thing the first week. And so in Jimmy Walker and Justin Thomas's case, we gave them the product early for a lot of these players. We said, hey, it's yours. We jokingly told them it was a little bit like Fight Club. Like, remember the first rule of Fight Club? That's the same thing with this driver. Please, no pictures, no anything. But we want you to practice it. We want you to be excited about it because we want you to put it in play when you think it's right. And I looked at it as a good sign when Jimmy was teeing it up at a charity event, and JT got busted for his at an Alabama alumni outing, I think, which was really amazing because all they noticed was the scoreline difference on the face.
Yeah.
That's when we knew that your readers were really into it.
Right. They're very investigative.
Yeah.
If something's out there, they know how to pinpoint it.
They know how to find it quickly. I mean, I have a quick question. So, in regards to the TS2, TS3, is the TS3 is going to be a 460 head?
They are both 460.
They're both 460 because before it was a 440.
Correct.
460.
Right,
okay.
and in talking to our key fitters and talking to our tour representatives, we just saw an opportunity that the 460 chassis allows us to make a better performing product for all golfers. And so no longer do you need something that is smaller in order to fit the better player eye. We absolutely can shape and drive that shape towards what the avid better player likes, but deliver the improved properties of the 460 chassis.
Right, and it's not really proven that a 440 head is what a better player is going to choose anyway. It's typically a low, a high spin player will want that because it doesn't spin as much, is my experience.
Yeah,
So,
it can be that those typically have lower, more forward CGs, deeper faces that just help to kill the spin.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But typically, then you're working with a trade-off. And that was one of the things we didn't want. We didn't want you to have to make a choice of like, okay, well, we'll give you lower spin or the shape that you like, but then we're going to have to take away forgiveness and consistent ball speed and maybe a little bit of workability, whatever it might be.
So it's down literally to how the club sits down.
Right. I love both of these platforms because one of the things that we did with that TS3 is we essentially have the low spin performance of the 917D3, but we have the forgiveness of the 917D2.
Right.
So it's a really powerful package for those players that, say, well, I can't play, the Players Club because it's not forgiving enough for me. No longer is that the case. And then the TS2, we just took it to a whole another level in terms of inertia and forgiveness, as well as high launch and low spin.
How did you actually accomplish more speed, especially in this environment with the USGA? There's obviously a limit. So how do you actually develop more ball speed in a new product in this environment?
I think the key to that was this idea of the Titleist Speed Project, in that it wasn't one thing. There wasn't one magic we have this mythical thing that does this amazing ball speed trick. It was the combination of all these little things added up, and we actually refer to that as this speed chassis. And so with this chassis, it enables us to really encapsulate quite a few things. The first is really just the overall streamlined shape that you see, and so you guys can see how much more streamlined this has been compared to any other Titleist product we've had in the past. 20% reduction in drag, which is really key, right? So give you a chance to swing it a little faster. From a crown thickness standpoint, significant reduction here, 20% thinner crown. Now we're still in titanium. We can talk about titanium versus composite and those things in a little bit, but we think that this gives us an opportunity to save some weight there, as well as continuing to thin the face. Additional weight saved there. So about 10 grams total between the two. So you can take all that weight and you can put it low and get that CG as low as possible. We think we've got, if not the lowest CG measured from the ground up, probably one of the lowest CGs. The legal team is constantly going through that with us. But we know as of measured products from 2018 with leading manufacturers, we've got the lowest CG. And what that helps you with, as you guys know and your readers know, is higher launch, lower spin, and thus better ball speed.
I would like to talk about the difference between a titanium crown and a carbon composite crown, because obviously there's other drivers out there that are using carbon and they're saying it's to drop CG.
Yeah.
Well, we fully looked at it. It's in every generation that we're doing, we're exploring all different types of construction and process in order to make the best performing product. And so we looked at composite crown products, and we've made one in the past with the 909D comp. One of the things that we know about where composite technology is at this point in time is that it still requires significant mass in terms of bond ledge and bond width. And what we were able to do with our supply partner is to really challenge them to cast our drivers even thinner, to take our titanium thickness down to a level that no one's ever accomplished before. And in doing that, we're essentially at parity with where those composite crowns with the bonded ledges are. And so there's no disadvantage to being in all titanium construction. And in fact, we think it allows us the opportunity to deliver better sound and feel.
Well, you guys have always, I mean, this is just I guess more of a rumor, but traditionally you guys have been a little bit more conservative on COR, right? On the face thickness, if I'm saying that right.
We've had some, I think if the people who are really in the weeds, we've been more conservative on certain standards as far as durability. We don't like our products breaking. We don't want our products to go out of conformance. Because that's just part of our quality assurance that we do. But we're still going to stay at those really high standards. We want to make sure that when you buy a Titleist product, you feel comfortable that I've got a product that really works. But at the same time, we don't want to be at a ball speed disadvantage. We don't want guys to go into a hitting bay and suddenly start taking shots and being like, oh, I really like all these drivers, but the Titleist one seems a little slow and spinny. And so that was really the quest for this new driver, was how do we, whether that label was fair or unfair, we needed to shed that. And so it started at the PGA Tour when you asked about how's it going on tour, and it's been really fun to see it start to trickle down where guys are like, hey, I'm hearing that you guys have a really hot driver right now. And we feel good about that. And in fact, to the last point of that would be, what else did we do? We're actually 100% inspecting all of the faces to make sure we are maxing out that CT. right? That allowable speed from the USGA and RNA across the face, because we want to be able to make sure that when someone goes in and buys one of our clubs, they're getting the same club as Adam Scott or Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. We want them to have the confidence that, yes, I'm getting the maximum speed I can while still being 100%, legal and compliant.
What is your kind of overall company philosophy on spin? Because I think the overall majority of people, like if you go on our GolfWRX forums, do say Titleist might spin more than another company. Is that something you guys are aware of, testing? Are you trying to lower spin and just can't figure it out? Or like, what's your philosophy on spin?
We're absolutely aware of target spin performances and what we can leverage towards our target players. So when we're looking at competitive products, we kind of understand where we are. We also understand that the products that we put into play are the same products that our PGA Tour players play. And they are oftentimes the most optimally fit, best players in the world. And so they don't need aggressive spin reduction. So you have seen from us in the past that we've made products like a 915 D4 that is kind of what we would consider more of a niche product. We know that there are some players that need aggressive spin reduction, and that product was, fulfilled to put us in that position. But with TS, essentially what we did is we set both of these drivers slightly lower in spin. So when I think about them relative to the competition, and we've tested them against all of the competition, I don't see us being at a significant spin increase over anyone else out there, especially when these drivers are properly fitted.
Right.
Yeah, and our goal, we joked about this earlier, our goal is we want you to play better golf. We don't want you to win home run derby. And so I think that the spin characteristics that we built in allow you to do that, but they are significant. With TS driver, ball speeds up and spins down from where we've been in the past. So it was a big part of, we needed to overcome that label, I think, and we've seen it in the forums. We know there's some guys out there that say, oh man, Titleist makes incredible irons, unbelievable wedges, great putters with Scotty Cameron. What's going on with the driver? And I think Steph and team really took that to heart when they designed these products, because we want to be the choice of the best players in the world, and we think we can build something that will give them every bit, if not more, than what they can get with a competitive product.
Which is kind of exciting for you guys, this endeavor anyway, so this is a little bit more personal. It's not like a typical launch where it's like, oh, we have the responsibility to the consumer to put a new driver out. It's like, no, we actually have something to prove on this one. So it's a cool way to go into a launch.
Oh man, it fires up the entire team, and everyone takes it very personally. I'm sure you get that everywhere you go, but it's a small community. People work really, really hard on every little thing that they might be involved with, whether it's just the design of the weight that's going to go in there, or we joked about the paint earlier. All of that is really highly considered because we want to make an incredible product, and that's why we have such a long cycle. We want to make sure that it's significantly better than anything we've ever made. And I think this driver is going to be really exciting for the guys who read your forum that haven't tried a Titleist driver in years. I think this is the one that they've got to go give a shot.
Right.
We turned it up to 11 on all aspects, really. I mean, it was a labor of love for our team because, as Josh mentioned, every aspect was addressed. We looked at CG placement, we looked at aerodynamics, we looked at build configuration, we looked at the technologies of the crown and how do we design this chassis to be lighter, leaner, meaner, so that we can absolutely do what we need to deliver more performance and more distance. So we're excited because I feel like that's translated 100% in terms of how our tour players have really just loved the product and the experience. We took a unique and an individual approach with each of them that essentially we did some stat analysis and we said, hey, here's where your strengths are with your current driver, here's where your opportunities are, and here's how TS can absolutely help you. Right. And doing that allows them to really understand we're on their team and we're on their side, and TS is absolutely going to deliver towards their goals.
Now, is this a product that's more, we talked about fitting a little bit. Obviously, this is going to live in the retail space. Like, there's going to be your big mega stores that are going to sell the drivers. There's going to be racks and racks of them. What would your, if you were going to recommend to obviously always get fitted, but I mean, there's some people that cannot go and get fit, but this particular driver, and it's okay if you say whatever you want, but this is a better driver, it sounds like, to actually go get custom fit and go through the whole process. That you're going to max. It's not something you're just going to grab off the rack and go out and bang around. Like, you probably want to get fit.
Well, I think off the rack, you're going to be really excited about the performance of this driver. If you hop in a hitting bay and take this thing, you're going to see stuff you haven't seen from a Titleist driver ever. Okay. But then if you give us, 45 minutes to do a fitting, it's going to be spectacular, right? It's going to really set you up and be like, all right, this is the best driver I've put in play. Right. But we want to make sure that everyone has that ability. Whether you don't have to be fit for the driver, we encourage it, right? Because that's when you'll find out what is the loft-lie combination, then which head is right for you, which shaft is right for you. Because we want to tailor, we want to set ourselves up with options there. So we've got 4 different shaft brands that have 4 different very unique profiles. The way that the 2 drivers are set up are very unique. The easy way to kind of think about the TS2 is, it's straight distance. Right? If you're a player who misses it kind of all over the club face, probably start with this one first. If you're a TS3, if you're a guy who you do have your misses, but typically your misses are in one kind of spot, or we can align that CG to your impact location and really dial this thing in for it, almost like a variable sweet spot. And so we'll only know those things if you give us a few minutes to do a fitting. Right. But make no mistake, right out of the box, these things are, it's worth trying.
Why do you make one CG adjustable and one not?
I think there's power in both, and we say that there's 2 ways to speed. There's those that need that maximum inertia and forgiveness, and that's what TS2 allows us to do by positioning that flat weight low and deep in the head, and we still have head weight adjustability to customize that, but that allowed us to maximize the inertia properties, to take us to a place where we've never been before, increasing our ball speed across the face. And that really, for that player that, as Josh mentioned, misses it maybe a little bit randomly, that's going to be powerful in terms of the consistency. And we've even seen a lot of our tour players gravitate towards that because the head stability and the feel coming through impact, it just feels like it's coming in square every single time, which is really powerful when you just want to hit those long bombs straight down the middle of the fairway. But the TS3 is another way for us to unlock speed. We know that with 917, we discovered center gravity fitting is a really powerful tool that you can help to align CG with impact location, as Josh mentioned. That can unlock more speed. You can also minimize the likelihood of a miss for a player, or you can free them up to hit a more consistent shot shape. All of that leads to increases in club head speed performance and ball speed translating from that. So we think that both avenues are really necessary to have the broadest impact with the avid golfer, and we think that we're covering the majority spectrum of what players need out of a Titleist driver with both of these technologies.
Building on that, sorry Johnny, but building on that, right now we've released on PGA Tour, the European Tour, and Web.com. And so we've got over 100 different guys playing the driver, and our mix is actually 50-50. Which is really unique. We've never seen that before. We've always been kind of tilted one direction or another with the driver, but I think that speaks to Stephanie's point of there's not a perfect pigeonhole of what you should hit. You should try both of them and see which one works for you.
What's the anticipated consumer split?
I think there'll be a little bit more, just based on the number of consumers that are out there. When I described it as somebody who kind of visits the majority of the driver face, you're going to see
equal opportunity.
Yeah, and it's okay. Hey, I know people just like that, right? Don't feel shame. We're going to see, I think, a higher percentage going to TS2. Okay. Maybe it's a 2-to-1 kind of split, somewhere in that range. That's what we're anticipating, but it'll be really interesting to see when people turn out.
How much influence is the golf ball? Because obviously it's a pretty prolific golf ball company. How much influence does the golf ball have over your design of a driver?
We're always paying attention to what our partners in the golf ball team are working on, right? Because we want to make sure that you get the utmost performance. And if they start to, lower spin to a point, and you know that the usage rate of Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X is so incredibly high, especially for the players that we target, that if let's say they went super low spin and we went with a super low spin driver and get to the point where it's not stable, that's a combination that we'd really focus on. So we're always paying attention to what they're working on, and they pay attention to what we're working on to make sure that we're developing products that are going to help golfers get the most out of their abilities. And certainly, we go after guys who play Pro V1 and Pro V1X. They're our target. That's who we build golf clubs for, because they really care about their game. They care about performance, and they want the best they can get.
Now, we were just in a room right over there. There's about 100 cameras in there. Can you talk about the research and design process from that aspect?
Yeah, I'll let Steph, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So early on in our stage of development, we're always constantly looking at how we can help players play better golf and what are the attributes of the head that will allow them to swing it faster, to generate more speed, higher launch, lower spin. So we have a segmented innovation team that they just work on prototypes. They dream up the new technologies, and we go through and validate and test those. That motion capture lab that we have next door essentially allows us to instrument a golf club and to be able to measure it down to a 25,000 frame rate per second. That's hugely powerful for us in terms of understanding delivery of the face and the closure rate and impacting for that player and their biomechanical response to it. So through that, we can learn things about, hey, if we drop CG, this is what happens to launch and spin. Hey, if we change the aerodynamics, here's what happens to the club head speed potential. If we change club length, here's what happens to the droop rate of it versus the lie angle adjustments that you can make. So through all of those aspects, we can dial in the product to be the best performing product. And we're constantly revisiting and looking at different attributes of the head design to determine how can we deliver more speed, how can we deliver more distance, how can we make it more consistent.
There you go.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, granted, in the long run, we get to make toys, but we get to make toys that help people play better golf in a game that we all enjoy, and it's a lot of fun. So it's hard not to come into work and smile a lot about it every day.
Well, it's also fun to see, I mean, this is just from a personal sense, it's fun to see you guys so geeked up on what's going on.
Yeah,
So
well, and that's what I was mentioning. It's real. It's something we care about. And I know one of the things that your guys care about. We mentioned, hey, we've got a product that has adjustable weight from a CG positioning and one that has a flat weight in there. That'll be one of the things that we'll share as we get closer to launch here. But the team even cares about just weight design.
Yeah, user interface.
So with 917, we had two weights. We had a neutral weight, and then we had another weight that was like a draw fade weight that was weighted on one end. And it drove our engineering team crazy that they needed two separate weights, mainly because you installed one of them and you threw the other one away, right? You didn't pay attention to it. And so they had a quest to how could they create a weight that at one point is in neutral. So when you look at this weight, it's got silver on both sides, and then you can take the weight off, put it on this end, and suddenly now it's heavy.
Okay.
Right, so you can have both a neutral weight as well as a draw fade weight all in one. Those are the types of obsession things that we see with our team.
That's a nerd play.
Totally.
A whole other level.
And I'm not calling the R&D team nerds.
Oh, it's okay. We're golf nerds.
That's awesome.
Another thing that everyone's going to notice is we went a little bit lighter and longer with this product. So shafts overall, our stock shafts are about 5 grams lighter on average. We looked at what we were putting in the marketplace versus not only competition, but where things had shifted to, and we just realized, boy, we were super heavy on that scale. We're going to continue to still offer super heavyweight options because we know the better player likes that. But at the same time, we also needed to introduce some lighter weight options as golfers have lost some speed or have just aged a little bit and they need something a little bit lighter so they can still get the speed they're looking for. And then we went ½ inch longer with our shaft. So our stock shaft length is now going to be 45.5 inches. Right. Still a little bit shorter than I think what the average driver would be in the marketplace. But for us, this is a big step forward. And we did it because Steph and team have designed such incredible forgiveness into both heads. We weren't going to be confident doing that unless we saw that our dispersion could stay as tight, if not tighter, than where we've been in the past.
Now, some people might see 0.5 inches and be like, that's nothing. But obviously there's a lot of significance to that. Can you explain more about what ½ an inch will do for golfer speed and accuracy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what we see is that a 1 inch increment can do anywhere from 1 to 2 miles an hour. So a ½ inch, it's not a huge shift in the speed performance, but it does take you to a higher potential for your speed. So we would say it's anywhere from a ½ mile an hour to 1 mile an hour in terms of increased club head speed, which we know 1.5 times that is your ball speed potential then out of it. It's every little thing, as Josh mentioned before. It's not just the one aspect of these heads being higher inertia or the CG being lower and closer to face center, but it's all of the elements of the lighter shafts paired with the longer length, paired with the higher MOI, paired with our faster face, paired with the enhanced aerodynamics. All of those things are adding up to make these drivers incredibly fast and generate significant distance.
So what's the actual numbers for the improvement from the previous driver to this driver in terms of MOI, ball speed, spin? So if someone has a 917, what can they expect?
We should expect, several mile-an-hour ball speed gains. You should expect significantly lower spin. Launch, if you go, a 9.5 versus a 9.5, launch with the new product is going to be just a little bit higher. So all of those equate to significant distance improvement. From an MOI perspective, huge shift. I think it's 12% more forgiving. So you're looking at significant off-center ball speed gains, which is really key, right? Because this is a game of misses, and you mentioned earlier about, USJ or RNA from a regulation standpoint that, they're regulating on-center contact. And so really this is about what can we do to make the rest of those shots play as well as possible.
And that's the new frontier too, is making the whole face hot.
Yeah.
Right.
Are these made out of the same materials?
They are. The driver head is made out of an 811, which is a light density titanium. It allows us to save a little bit of mass over the traditional 6.4 tie, which also helps us to improve our properties. And then the face insert is a 6.4 tie face insert, and it's a forged face insert.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm like on overload right now.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to look at shafts at all before we go outside?
Yeah, let's talk shafts and pricing as well.
Oh, perfect.
And then maybe fairways, too.
Oh yeah, we'll do fairways for sure.
Fairways.
Sorry. So from a shaft standpoint, I mentioned that we're partnering with 4 kind of powerhouse brands. The first note is we always use what we call like real deal shafts, authentic shafts. We don't do specialty made for a different paint job, something like that. This is what you would get if you go to highly a nice golf specialty retailer. This is the type of shaft you get installed. Or if you go to on a tour event and you wander into the trucks, this is what you find. We believe in that because we think that we can find the best manufacturers to help complement the product we're making. I at least mention this a lot, that I tend to think of the club head is really the engine of your sports car. And then the shaft is kind of the transmission. You need to pair it really well to get the most out of the overall performance of that sports car. So the 4 brands we've chosen to use are Kurikage, which will be our lightweight offering, ultralight I should say, is 50 grams offering, and then you get into Tensei Blue at 55. We've got Hazardous Smoke, which is a brand new shaft just coming on the market now. Our 60 gram part, again, we'll continue to offer 70 and 80 as no upcharge. And then Evenflow T1100 White, which we're really excited about introducing that as well. And that's our kind of heaviest weight, lowest launching, lowest spinning part. So if you go from the scale here, you'd say the Kurikage is going to be your highest launching, highest spinning for the guy who needs that speed. Then you go into kind of a mid-launch, mid-spin with the Tensei Blue, which we think is just a terrific shaft for a majority of golfers. Then you get into this new Hazardous Smoke. We just said that finished fitting all of our sales reps, and that was the most preferred shaft for that team. And the testing that they've been doing, the True Temper team has said that, hey, they think this is going to be their top selling shaft this year as well. So we've got a lot of excitement there. And then finally with that low launch part with Evenflow. And then we've got dozens of other shafts that are no upcharge through our custom program, because we believe in finding the right shaft for you.
One of the other neat things about these lightweight shafts is that our motion capture research really did influence how we partner and work with. And one of the technologies that we had come forward with our C16 driver a couple of years ago was a SureFit grip weighting, where we saw that lightweight shafts do have a tendency to go right for more players. And so we had designed and developed this technology that allowed us to essentially impregnate into the carbon fiber tungsten. And Mitsubishi took that technology and they've licensed it from us, and they've implemented it into our truest lightweight shaft options in the Kurakage and the Tensei Blue 55. So it's only in those sub 60 weight ranges, but we know that that actually helps for those shafts to perform better for that target player.
Wow, I think that's something not a lot of people know about. Can you talk a little bit more about that subleasing and the development of the technology?
Well, we absolutely are always researching not only on head design, but on total club design. And we have a department that's dedicated towards shaft research. And one of the things that we understood through our player testing and our research was this aspect of positioning mass in the shaft in different areas. That if you put it all the way up near the butt end of the golf club, essentially that can produce a more right bias, which can actually be good for some players. If you put it, slightly below the hands, you can produce more of a draw bias to the golf club. And we saw, as we mentioned, with varying shaft weights, that can be influenced and can help you to affect ball flight for different players. So we had made that product into our VG3 Japan product as well, and it's something that Mitsubishi was aware of because we were making those products, and they asked if they could use that technology in their next generation products because they saw how vital and how important it was to make a better performing shaft using that technology.
I think there's a vocal, certain little subset in the forums that are convinced that shaft doesn't matter. What do you say to that?
First, I would say, true, there is a subset that believe that shaft doesn't matter. That's not what we see in the testing that we do, and we test in so many different ways across so many different variables that we really do find that shaft does matter. But again, think about it as mattering as to get the best performance out of this. Right? We've built this unbelievable technological engine here, but if you put the wrong transmission on it, you don't get everything out of this. You'll get some things, but not all of it. And I think that's where it really comes to play.
I love to think of it as a timing mechanism and a directional mechanism for a lot of players too. So for when we're fitting shafts for players, we're looking at how do we maximize their club head speed potential, what feels best to them, and then what torque or what bend profile helps them to pull in their dispersion pattern with it as well.
That's what's one of the club fitters that I've talked to in the past that really resonated with me is the timing mechanism for the golf club, which is a big deal.
Absolutely.
How you deliver the golf club matters.
It's a big deal.
I think the other thing I would say to that is we have an extensive shaft guide that we make readily available through Titleist.com, where we test every shaft. So you'll be able to see all the key components in there. You'll see, frequency. You'll see feel. Everything that we've added in, all the torque ratings are in there that we've tested ourselves the same way. Everything is in there so that you can get as close to an apples to apples comparison as anything. And you'll see that they are, if you go, even if you just look at these shafts that we have in our stock lineup, if you go from this even flow T1100 white to the Kurakage black 50, it's radically different. And so I think that golfers are going to see very different performance there.
Now, what's your company fitting process with shafts? Do you kind of get ahead, you decide on the head, and then start testing a bunch of shafts and see what happens, or how does that work?
Well, I would say philosophically, we try to find the correct model for the player. Then we'll start with loft. Then we'll go through the SureFit hosel fitting. Then we'll utilize the weight components, whether it be SureFit CG or maximizing head weight. And then we'll look at shaft. Obviously, you want to get the flex and the bend profile right for the player. So if a player, we know where to start them approximately if they're an S-Flex player, so we'll start there. With a Tensei Blue is generally where we'll start with most players. And then depending upon what we see with their control, sometimes if players are lacking control, we'll go heavier. Sometimes if they're lacking speed, we'll go towards the lighter spectrum. If they need launch help, we'll obviously move towards that Kurakage. So it's really our fitter recognizing within that player's performance and what trajectory window they want to see it fly in, what shafts might pair up with that.
Do you kind of let a player dictate what they want to test based on feel, or I want this, I want that, or is it more scientific?
We do have the flexibility to, depending upon the player, they can either say, hey, I really love the feel of the TS2. I want to be fit into it. And the TS3 perhaps might, off the shelf, look like it's a better fit for them at first. But with all of our fitting techniques and technology, we can absolutely get them to a really solid fit with a TS2 if that's the driver that they want to play. So it really, and then we have a lot of players that walk in and are very open and say, you tell me which is best, and you help me find my best performance. So I would say it's individual in terms of the approach, but we believe that we have the broadest spectrum of fitting tools as well as shaft offering to really allow players to either make their choice or to make our best recommendation.
You'll see it when we go outside. We're going to present you all the facts, right? Here's where you're getting, what we think is optimized from, launch, spin, consistent ball flight. But we're not putting a club in your hand saying you have to do this. So if someone is tied to, I've always been, an X-Flex player, fine. If you want to stay in that, you can. Just know that this is what you're kind of giving up by doing that. But part of that is that mental makeup of just like, I like this. This makes me feel comfortable. And in some regards, if someone really feels comfortable with the shape of the TS3 and the way they're hitting it, they may start to be more aggressive in the way they're swinging it. And that actually offsets what we see from a raw number standpoint. So we never push, hey, you have to do this. We give recommendations based on this is what the numbers say, but at the end of the day, it's the golfer's choice.
Right, it's a psychology. The psychology does play probably 10% into it. And the fitting is, even with shafts, for example, a guy might have played like a Diamant Blue forever.
Yeah.
It's just the shaft he wants, whether it works or not, it doesn't matter. It's like he knows what that
His
bullet
swing is
does.
grooved to it because it's his timing mechanism.
Right.
Stubborn.
A good example of that was actually with Adam Scott. So throughout all of our prototype testing, Adam really gravitated towards the TS2 recently, and part of the reason why he did, he said the head just feels so stable, it feels like I can't really manipulate it offline. And then recently he's gotten where he's been working on some things with his swing and he wants to be able to work the ball a little bit more again. And so now he's been fit into a TS3.
Right.
But he has both choice and both options and he understands the performance of both. But ultimately, as his game and his philosophy changed and migrated, we had the tools to help him get there too.
Right. Some players like a longer looking head because they feel like the toe's going to flip over, and you hear it all the time with better players. Like for whatever reason, that golf club felt like it was going to square up, and the deeper face one didn't feel like. I felt like I had to work too hard to square it up. Like it's all psychology.
Yeah. Performance choice is really key, and that's why we have both the 2 and the 3.
Right.
Now, if someone wants to get fit for the TS2, TS3, where exactly do they go?
Oh man, we offer fittings pretty much everywhere. The easiest place to figure out where is the closest fitting to you is just go to Titleist.com, and right on our main page you'll see Find a Fitter. It's all geo-targeted. You've got different options if you want to go to a place like this. That's there if you happen to live close by. Otherwise, everything from our partner network, whether it's the high-end country clubs that offer public access to specialty fitters like your Club Champions, True Spec, Cool Clubs, and the like. We offer everything, and right down to retail. Right, our friends at whether it's Worldwide Golf, PGA Tour Superstore, Golf Galaxy, all of those places offer different levels of fitting, and we train all of them on how to fit. We fly those guys out here and spend extensive time with them talking about our products, but most importantly, teaching them how to fit Titleist products so they're certified and you're going to get a great experience wherever you go.
How do you get certified? What does that process actually look like? Are they taking tests, or how does that work?
We make them fit each other, which is really curious. So most of the fitters, as you can just about imagine, have fit themselves based on what's happening. We have them come out here, they go through a couple of sessions, and then we start doing active fits. Sometimes we'll bring in a consumer, so you're watching someone fit him and you're grading them in the background of how well is he doing? Is he asking the right questions? Oh, look at that, he missed that. He shouldn't have thrown that shot out, or I would have gone heavy with this guy. I wouldn't have gotten short and light. And they're grading each other on that. And the other is then we put them in the mix. So suddenly they're fitting their peers, and they get pretty sharp pretty quickly. And so the guys that we think do a nice job basically get the gold star, and the guys that don't,
Thanks for coming.
yeah, it's like, well, we'll see you again. We'll give them some online university help as well because we want them to be able to understand. But our fitting tools they're pretty straightforward as far as our resources, and it helps you understand pretty quickly like how to go from I don't know how to fit a golf club to I can get there. Now the tough part is that art and science, right? Where just like a good mechanic, sometimes you just hear and you're like, oh God, I know what to do. Or you see a guy because you've seen tens of thousands of swings and you know right away when you watch 4 or 5 swings which direction you're going to go. Maybe this is a guy that you immediately know, oh, I got to go short with him, or I got to go really toe up or something like that. But we do a lot of that training because that's where you get the opportunity to play your best golf.
A lot of them too, they comment back to us that it's the first time they've ever had 360 feedback. They've never had their fittings observed and then graded by their peers, and how powerful that is for them to learn and to grow. So that's the type of network that we build, that family type of environment for all of our product specialists, so that they are not only as capable, they are as capable as our fitters out here. Absolutely. They've gone through kind of the full gamut of preparation. So our Titleist Thursdays events are great events that people can go and get that level and caliber of fitting that you would experience at Oceanside Test Facility out in the field.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I was so busy talking about all our different partners we have. We actually have about 130 dedicated product specialists that their job is they work for our company and they fit. So they're the best of the best. And they come out here periodically as well for trainings and updates, and then we go to them. In fact, they're being trained on the new driver this week in Dallas. So they'll spend a couple days going through everything, and they'll do a whole bunch of fits and be ready to go. Because we just really believe in the idea of getting your best golf comes out of fitting.
Where are they located? Just all across America, and you can find them at...
Yeah, just visit Titleist.com is the easiest way to find them. But they're in all the major metros. Some of them have 2 or 3, as you might guess. I know we were talking about where in New Jersey earlier?
Hillsborough, New Jersey.
All right.
Shout out Hillsborough.
So we'll make sure we find the right guy in that area.
Okay. How much are you charging us for the products?
Gosh. I thought you meant for fittings. I was like, no, fittings are Titleist Thursday fittings are free. You get TrackMan, expert, and you hit Pro V1s. It's probably the best 45-minute deal you got.
Gotta hit real balls. Hitting the straight balls won't help you too much, right?
Well, unless you're going to play those full time, right? which I don't think too many of our golfers are going to do. But as far as pricing the driver is going to be the map pricing you'll see in the marketplace is $499 for both drivers.
Okay.